French President Emmanuel Macron has signed a new climate change pledge with his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping. Appearing at a ceremony in Beijing as part of his state visit to China, Macron said Europe and China need to work closer together to help tackle global carbon emissions. It comes just days after President Trump pushed ahead with his plan to pull the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord. Well, for more, we're joined here in the studio by Euronews journalist Alistair Sanford. Alistair, morning. I know you've been following the developments over this three-day meeting. What's Macron said today about this new pledge when it comes to climate?
Yes, the French president's been holding a joint news conference with Xi Jinping, the Chinese president. Incidentally, they took the opportunity to sign some important trade deals during this state visit as well. But Macron did say that climate and biodiversity were at the heart of their agenda, and he wants China and the EU to go further with more concrete commitments ahead of next year's UN Climate Change Summit in Glasgow. Let's have a listen to what he's had to say, because without mentioning him by name, President Macron did take a clear dig at Donald Trump as he praised the work done so far by the EU and China.
Concerning the struggle against global warming, for the past 2 years, we have constantly worked together with efficiency and commitment. I deplore the choices made by others, but I want to see them as marginal choices. Because when China, the EU and Russia, which ratified the Paris Accords a few weeks ago, steadfastly commit themselves, the isolated choice of such and such is not enough to change the course of the world.
This comes at a very critical time in the fight for sorting out climate change and trying to help the warming world.
Yes, and we've had some new reports and warnings. There's new data on temperatures around the world by Copernicus. That's the body providing data for the EU. It said that in October, average temperatures around the world, they varied from place to place, but on the whole, they were the warmest on record. Separately, a coalition of scientists have declared a climate emergency in an article published in Bioscience. It's signed by 11,000 scientists. They've looked at data over 40 years, not just in temperatures, but carbon emissions, energy, population growth, land use, ocean acidity and polar ice, for instance. And they say they have a moral obligation to tell it like it is. They warn that what's needed is an immense increase in the scale of efforts. Otherwise, there'll be what they describe as untold suffering in years to come.
The countries that are committed to the Paris Climate Accord, how are they managing the expectations on them? And even if all of those countries do fulfil their obligations, is it enough?
It seems to be a mixed picture. I mean, in the words of one scientist who we spoke to, she said that it's a bit like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, what's actually going on at the moment. Another group of climate experts have said regarding the Paris Accord, 75% of the climate pledges are insufficient, and even some of those are unlikely to be achieved. They say it's a pretty mixed picture, particularly amongst the big emitters like the US, the EU, China and India. Yes, they may be on course for some of their pledges, but emissions are still rising on the whole. Now, they say there are other encouraging signs, this sort of global surge in concern and awareness. There's also increased use of renewable energy, but that's still dwarfed by the use of fossil fuels. And they warn, of course, that we could see these future chain reactions kick into play with what they describe as tipping points that will be irreversible. So they do say there is a need for major transformations in society, and they have to happen now.